Good afternoon, everyone. This is Naishad Gadani coming to you from Melbourne, and it is 157th episode of Career Care Package. And on today's episode, we are talking about how to get a job without applying for a job and
Online.
using some online. That's right. How to get a job without applying for a job online. So we're going to be looking at some of the creative approaches that we have practiced, me and Caroline, and some of the approaches that we think are great, worthwhile to practice as well. But before we start to kick off the discussion, I think I want to also, give great shout out to all the Victorians as well, because this is the second day in the row that we have got a donut. That means that we have got zero cases, new cases, and zero people have died, which is absolutely amazing effort. That means that retail is going to open from tomorrow, and eventually we will see that some of the jobs will also come back to as the businesses start to open as well, so which is a fantastic news. And soon you might see a lot of people, lot of jobs also appearing on Seek online, and a lot of activities will also start to happen as well. So kudos to everyone and their effort. But before we start to kick off also the discussion, let's welcome Caroline Brown.
Thanks, Nesh. I feel very welcome every time you say welcome. So, yeah, it's fantastic to be here. Double donut. I didn't quite get what the donut meant until I realized it was zero inside a zero. So, I'm not a visual person, which is a bit of a pain. But anyway, so visual metaphors are often lost on me. So, but yes, it's fantastic to be here. And I'm really looking forward to talking about how to be creative in applying for a job, because as we all know, applying for a job online is frustrating. And I did see this status update about getting rejected from putting your CV in and using it as a learning opportunity and approaching the company and getting some feedback, and that all presupposes that that process works, right? So there's somebody's actually, like, the advertisement's well written, your CV is well written, you're not a match for the job, and a set of eyeballs actually look at the CV. And then that somebody will get back to you with feedback. And we all know that that process is pretty broken, and even more broken with the thousands of people that are applying for jobs. So we want to give you more empowering ways and more creative ways, and where your personality can come out and shine through, that will help you actually, be in that conversation often where jobs are being created, like the problem is there in the workplace and you're part of the discussion. So yes, I'm looking forward to digging into this topic and having a chat. And just want to say hello to Balin and hello to Noor as well. So thank you for joining us.
Excellent. So yes, if you got questions or if you know somebody who has used creative strategies, please share their ideas as well. And as usual, if you know somebody who might benefit from this discussion, please take them here, because you might do a world of benefit to them as well. So let's kick off this. So as me and Caroline, sort of told you about what to expect in this today's episode, so we'll be taking turns to explain some of the things that we have done with our clients in terms of using some creative approaches. So I'll kick off with with a resume. I'm going to show you, it's not particularly a resume that you will find. This is not a resume, but it is. But I'll give you a brief background about that so that you can keep this in context while you are seeing this as well. So I worked with a client where her current role when I started to work with her was she used to sell furniture, high-end furniture shop as a retail assistant. But she sustained a workplace injury, so that means that she could not do what she used to do, because her job also involved, lifting things and putting them away and everything else. And I think she had a hand injury, so that meant that she had to look for a new job or a new career potentially. And what she told me is that she definitely had a career in mind, which was, if you go to buy a new home in those display homes, There is a particular person who helps you select the colors of of various rooms along with the panels and everything else to make sure that they are aligned and there's some theme running through that. I did not know that there is somebody who is dedicated to do that with home builders, and that is the first time that I'm hearing for that. But as you can imagine, those jobs we could not find online at all, and those jobs were called color host. I never heard of that phrase even before. So what intrigued me is that if there are these jobs are not being advertised, that means that people internally might be filling the role, because it will be pretty difficult for them to go out and advertise for certain specific skills while they can internally groom somebody else to take over those roles. So that posed the question that how do we really approach this market at all? So we decided to approach it very creatively. That meant that we decided to go and outreach all the big builders, all the home builders, and we picked up 10 home builders in Melbourne, and we thought we are going to approach them. But how are we going to approach them? So we decided to create a creative resume, and this is the resume that I'm going to show you.
It's called the flipper,
Kind of,
the color flipper.
it's called Shane Wants Flipper. Shane Wants Flipper resume. So it's actually a resume, right? Now this was the first version that we created. I kept it, for my own learning as well. As you can see, it's got a clip here, but this was not the main idea. Eventually what we did was, we created a ring here, and it shows, like, if you go to Bunnings or anywhere else, it looks like that color card as you open up, and you can see different shades of color, and that's what it was meant to be. First of all, on the first page it talks about who she is. On the next page it talks about my mantra. So it says design mantra. What is my design mantra? What do I believe in design? Then the third page talks about what are her signature skills. What does she know about it? Now, interestingly enough, she also studied interior design back in, when so she had an undergraduate degree in interior design, which really helped her to really, make that point. Then we talked about values. Then we talked about her experience, all those things, and then we sent it. It took us, probably $20 to make this. And since she was, an artist by herself, she did all the designing, and all the creative work. And then we decided I went to on LinkedIn and found out the HR managers detail of 10 big builders, and we decided to post them, because hey, if I'm going to send something to them on an email, I'm pretty sure that it would go in the in the trash can straight away, because it's not easy for people to understand. So we decided to send them, and interestingly enough, she got an email back from one of the biggest builders of, in Victoria, or even probably nationally. And the HR manager wrote her the email and said, "Look, it took a while for me to understand what did you send it to me, but I must tell you, I have, in my 25 years of career, I have never seen somebody approach me this way. And here is, we are currently not looking for anyone in that position, but mind you, I'm going to keep this on my table." And these are her words. "As soon as the position becomes available, or anywhere else that I see that your skills can be utilized, I'll reach out to you personally." And what it did was that it really gave her the spark of motivation that she was looking for. She said, "There's somebody out there who's listening to her, and who's listening to her skills, and who's interested in her, in her experience and passion." And that's what she got out of it. It was an absolute joy to see that she read out this email that the HR manager sent, and it really boosted the confidence that is required. To summarize, we chose specific way to present her skill, because it is aligned to the role that she was looking at, and we posted it out directly to the person who will open up. And that's very essential in this case, because you want the right person to open up this particular, resume retrospectively. I thought, started to think more and more. I thought, if this would have gone to a project manager or site manager or a sales manager, for example, I think this may have created a different outcome. But the point was that, this $20 exercise gave her that boost, that in terms of confidence that she was looking for. KB.
Yeah, I think it's a great story because, it's appropriate for the job that she's applying for, and it gives her a boost as well. So, that approach wouldn't work if you're going for a banking job at a large corporate, but totally appropriate for what she's applying for, and also showing a level of creativity as well. So, no, it's a great story, and that's what you've got to keep in mind if you go and do these things, is who's the audience and how do you actually make a real connection with them and an appropriate connection with them. So I know a friend of mine tells a story about a guy applying for a job wrapping his resume in a basketball. I mean, that wouldn't work for everyone, obviously, but maybe a sports company or sports retail outlet for sure. So yeah, so that's a great story. I've got quite a few to share that are more kind of anecdotes and reflections, also reflections on some of the guests that we had. And one of the things that really struck me was Ben's example about basically being in the mind when a business is experiencing a problem and having the discussion that helps create a solution with you as the person that implements that. And so he gave us a little story about, in some of his networking where he was reaching out for discussions, he'd see what one company was advertising and present that to a similar company and say, you could hire me for this role. This is a company that's got probably the same challenges as you. It's already defined that the problem, the solution's already defined. You should hire me for this role. And that's what I really like, that proactive approach. And again, it's within the context of the conversation. So it's not cold emailing, that description. It's having that conversation, uncovering the business challenges, working out what a solution might be and how you could assist with that, and that being articulated in a particular job description. So I really liked that example. And also the thing is quite clever from a psychological point of view, because the company that you're presenting to that to, has that fear of, it's that kind of fear of missing out. So, this other company is doing that, we should be doing that. I like it also because it's proactive, and it's also demonstrating in the act of that, because we always talk about how to add value. It's demonstrating actually how to add value. So, yeah, I really like that little example.
Absolutely. I think I also liked what Ben said around, taking one job description from a company to the other
That's
one.
what I'm talking about.
Because that's pretty interesting. Obviously that just requires, KB, in my view, is that with a lot of awareness about the problem, the solution, and also confidence to engage in those conversations also. Because traditionally we not job seekers are not used to engage in those kind of conversations, as well. That's right. And on the same, just a quick one. We had Joe yesterday, and Joe also shared a story of her partner, of how he's partner is a copywriter, and how he uses wine bottles and create labels with his quirky writing, and meet the ad agencies and the marketing agencies. And I think that's a pretty remarkable, but also pretty targeted approach, because those people will understand those kind of quirkiness around that, and it is so easy for them to relate to that, rather than finding a copywriter on Seek or or anywhere else, right?
And this wine, for example, is if you've ever read wine labels, they're an art form in themselves. It's like hints of raspberries grown in the south of France in this rare valley of, I can tell I'd be crap at it, but that kind of writing as well. So yeah,
Absolutely.
you got another story, Nish?
Yeah, I have. So I worked with a young architect, grad, back in 2011, 2010, 11. I used to work in the Job Services Australia. So we would not get many university graduates come through our doors looking for work. But here she was, and she showed me her resume. It was first meeting, so I was just, in the first meeting we usually, find out what the job seeker has done, what are their interests are, where are the barriers, and things like that. We started to chat about her experience, and she told me about. Actually showed me the blog that she writes about architecture and her interest, and she would take pictures of if she is walking in Melbourne, take pictures and just write things around what she thinks that the architecture stands for, and great buildings, and she'll write things about it. She attended a lot of conferences, traveling by herself and paying for those conferences, and she also wrote blogs about it. Now she's absolutely fascinating creative person, but as soon as I saw the resume, I said, nah, this is not going to work. Like it was so bland. Now the content was pretty great, but it was just a standard resume, like a retail resume. It is nothing exciting, and it wasn't innovative. It wasn't actually demonstrating how creative she was. It
Mm.
wasn't showcasing her passion and her genuine interest in the world of architecture. It wasn't. And I said, you know what? I'll be very honest with you. This resume sucks. You need to get rid of this resume.
I'm going to give
And
you some
she felt, and
feedback.
she thought, this is not
Sure.
what I came here to Job
Yeah.
Services Australia for. I'm not here for that. I said, but tell me, are you getting any responses? She said, no. I said, that's pretty much right. I said, you're
Mm.
wasting your time with this resume. So what do you want me to do? I said, okay, first of all, get rid of this. We are not using this. Okay. She said, that's fine. I said, just be creative, and showcase your, tell them, show them your work,
Mm.
right? And tell them why you enjoy your work. These are the two examples, right? So tell them your passion, why you are doing what you're doing. And also the other bit of pieces is that you want to showcase your work. You want to tell people how creative you are, right?
Mm.
And these are the two briefs that I told her. And she said, all right, okay, let me think about it. So after a week, she came back with, A2 size paper. Actually, she came with an envelope, and she said, this is my resume. I said, okay, let's look at it. So we looked at the resume, and it opens up various folds. And every fold had some writing about her, but also her work as well. Right. So, and it was strategically put. And as soon as it opens up, it creates a big, picture. It gives you a real solid picture of her passion or work. It will immediately, out of 1,000 people, it will immediately differentiate her, right? And I said, this is way beyond even my imagination, what you've done. She said, now the ball is in your court. Tell me what to do now. I said, all right, so tell us which 10 companies do you want to work for? She said, look, these are the few architects that are really cool, creative. I want to work with them. Okay, all right, let's do that. How about you take, take a copy of these 10 copies and really send it to them with a personalized message. So what do you mean? I said, just post it to them and see what happens, right? So she posted it. Not a week, a fortnight, 3 weeks later, she came back and she said, couple of architects did give her a call back straight away. And one architect actually took a picture and tweeted about it. She said, it is just mind blowing. She said, I've never expected these responses from them, and I'm going to meet them, and see what, whether they've got a job, work experience, everything else. But, if you look at even the investment that she did to create that was minimal. However, the outcome was, maximum, that she could get in touch straight with the people who can appreciate the work. When you see something, you can appreciate that work, and that's what she did. And I don't remember whether she got a job or not, but what was very clear, that she knew that the traditional way of looking for work is not going to work. She'll have to demonstrate, just because she is in an industry that people will like to see the work more and understand whether you have a genuine interest in this vocation or not, rather than that you writing about it that I'm a great architect. I don't think so that matters a lot. So that's my second story, which is absolutely heartwarming.
I just got a little pop down from things saying your mic is muted. Yes, I was just saying that is such an awesome story for those of you who can't actually lip read. So, yeah, I mean, just obviously a really creative person with blogging and really passionate. But I think we hold ourselves back when we look for a job and think that we actually have to follow these strict rules, when really that's just the sort of advertised way to find a job. So. Yeah, I think that's amazing. So, and also people, that we're all salespersons, people in our jobs, right? We're all salespeople. But when it comes to actually selling yourself, people don't apply those same sort of sales techniques or tactics. But then I think it comes back to you are actually selling yourself. You're not selling a product or a service or a company. So, but just keep that in mind. So it's funny that you say about the Twitter, that being tweeted out. I have a story from quite a few years ago, about 8 or 9 years ago, about when Twitter was first starting to be used by people a lot in Australia. There was a girl that worked in HR and for one of the not-for-profits, but she really wanted to get into Deloitte. So she basically she was on Twitter quite a lot. So she made it really clear on Twitter that that's actually what she wanted to do, and she asked for help. In helping her with tips, with introductions, with approaches, and all sorts of things. And the people that she added to her Twitter account to follow, or followed on Twitter, followed her back. But they were people like me in the career space. They were resume writers. They were people that used to work for Deloitte. They were employees of Deloitte. It was quite a famous case within sort of the HR and talent community. So basically, she started to get a lot of advice. People connected with her. It got on Deloitte's radar because obviously they monitor who's talking about them in the social space. And she ended up getting an interview with Deloitte and getting a job with Deloitte in their digital marketing as well. So a really great tale of how to crowdsource your job search and get a whole lot of support. So there are really creative ways you can actually use social media to do that. And obviously, you're not hiding what you're looking for. You're not hiding it from your employer, but you're also not hiding your successes or your failures. Because I think, what was really clever about it is with people in my space, in the career space or the career coaching or job search coaching space, we all had a bit of a vested interest. So we're really keen to look at how she did it, but also our help for her was public as well. So, that sort of her actions helped us and we helped her at the same time. And that was amplified. So it was very, very clever. And I think she ended up working for Deloitte for a period, but also, that kickstarted a change of career for her as well. So, and I know, just going back to Ben, because I think he's been sort of the most creative person that we've had in terms of lateral thinking about recently on the show in terms of finding a job. I mean, he has that tribe of 8 people, the 8, and they share on their LinkedIn, they share their activities. So it becomes a story for, people to present an interview about what they've been doing. It makes their job search more efficient. And also if people are looking for creative people or some people in that space, there's their activity, shown for everyone to learn from. So there is different ways that you can use social media beyond, commenting on blog or commenting on LinkedIn or liking or sharing or giving the thumbs up. You can create a community around what you're doing as well, which gives you support. And it's a great success story.
Absolutely. I think KB, I can completely second that. I think Twitter is not particularly used, and especially in Australia. I think and it also creates an opportunity. I think, it doesn't matter whether you are in accounting or IT or engineering. I think there are still ways for you to use Twitter more
Mm,
efficiently and resourcefully, to be able to create those close connections with people, because Twitter works very differently. If you look at, how did I get Vikram, the comedian from India,
mm,
to come on our show, was out of a tweet that I asked him to, come and, talk to us about it. I've or similarly reached out to another, founder, or, he will be coming on in, 2 3 weeks time. I've just, engaged with him on Twitter, and, finally he agreed. And it's a great, tech journalism startup in Melbourne,
mm, mm,
that is going to come on our show as well. So I think Twitter is probably not understood by job seekers, because people think politicians and business leaders and, right wing and left wing,
mm.
people only used to have a go at each other. There's so much more to Twitter than just purely about those engagement. I use Twitter
Yeah.
for both the reasons. I also engage in a political conversation, but I also use for my career purposes. Also, I follow everyone on
Mm.
Twitter. It doesn't matter, because for me, I just
Yeah.
want to get a sense of the world, not
Mm,
just from a view of LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is still very very narrow view,
mm,
if you look at. But Twitter is more, more open and more, what we say, quirky, and, you
mm.
know i- and more in a way exploratory.
Yeah.
Suddenly you'll find, oh, you've never heard of that thing. Wow,
Mm,
LinkedIn, it is LinkedIn is becoming too
yeah.
crowded, too noisy, where Twitter is still very exploratory.
I think with Twitter too, like, and this goes for all social media, like you look on Instagram and most people have selfies about like selfies, me, 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 me. And after a while, you go, oh, look, there is more to life than taking a picture of yourself and putting it up. And the thing to remember, like with this particular example, is that while she was seeking out help, it was about thanking people and reporting back and all those sort of little networking things that you can do that actually demonstrating not like it wasn't just about her, it was about I'm also circling back publicly. I'm thanking people publicly, so I'm showing that I've got good manners and good etiquette and good networking skills, but also supporting the work of people who are supporting me by doing that. And I think that's the clever thing about it. And the same with most social media as well. It's not just about what you're up to; it's about using that to start a conversation that is then is useful to you and useful to other people as well. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
um,
I've got another one,
yep,
which is around using Facebook ads.
yeah,
Now, I read about this person. I've got two stories around it. I know somebody who got a job using Facebook ads, targeting to particular individuals also. But if you do not want to go on that path, there's this person that I actually spoke with in last fortnight, and I wanted to, get him on our show, talk about the, this creative approach. But this was run as an experiment. He was not intending to get a job, but he wanted to run an experiment around it. I'll tell you more about it. So, so what he decided, that he wanted to work with Tesla. Tesla is the company that he wanted to work with. So what he did was, that I want to find out where the Tesla, headquarters are. And then I want to find out where the CEO of Tesla, Elon Musk, where does he work? So he found out a couple of addresses by doing, Google searches and everything. So he actually found out addresses where those things are, right? Because you can target Facebook ads in, from a particular location to how many kilometers do you want to target this ad for, right? That's the first thing that he did, is
mm,
to is to find out that. So he put a 25K radius, from that. Then he created a profile. But on his profile, there is a big banner says that, that I want to work with Tesla. There's some hook point, but also it says that I want to work with Tesla. He's got his picture, and then he created a Facebook ad that particularly targets, which goes into the news feed, not on the side ones. He wanted to go on the news feed. and he wrote the ad which talks about who he is and what he will bring.
Mm.
Clearly says that I want to work with Tesla. And if people click on that, then he created, gave the LinkedIn as a URL where people can go and check out his LinkedIn profile, right? That's
Mm.
what the whole thing, right? Very, very targeted into that. And he spent 20 euros for doing that. And I'll tell you, some of the results that he got out of it was
Mm.
that 1600 times the ad was shown. 1300 people using the Facebook. So 1300 people, actually the ad reached to 1300 people.
Mm.
And there was 3% CTR. That means percentage of times people saw the ad,
Mm-hmm.
right? 3% CTR. I don't know what it means.
That's
48
click-through
times.
rate, Nesh.
Yeah. Sorry?
It's click-through rate.
Click-through rate.
Yeah,
48 times the ad was clicked.
yeah.
48 times the ad was clicked. And it took 7.5 euro to reach 2,000 people, Fahim, right? And 6 euros to get 1,000 impressions, right?
Mm.
Now, this is what out of just $20, I think he created two different ads. One was probably a impression one, just it comes over there, and second was and he spent this much money to get this response. Now it's a
Mm.
clearly very, very smart way to approach uh,
Mm.
and specifically, and I'll probably say that again, if you are an accountant, if you're an IT, if you're into engineering, you don't think that, yeah, but you know what, doesn't work for me. No, it works, because people who use Facebook, that's what you want. If people, somebody who you want to work with is browsing Facebook and say, wow, oh, this guy wants to work with my company. Oh, let's click on that. Ah,
Mm.
that seems pretty creative. Let me
And you
send it
only
to
need
somebody.
one good click, don't you?
That's
One
it.
good click. And with those things as well, I mean, what's to stop you having a downloadable white paper, for example? Like, and in that instance, you get it's very easy to use things like Mailchimp, for example, and gather an email address or lead page. Like these tools are really they're very straightforward to use, and they're pretty low cost. And who's to say that you couldn't, if you're in IT, design a white paper on a particular solution that that helps a really well-known pain point. Something that people really struggle to articulate. And with those sorts of things, if you kind of clearly describe the before and the after, you're going to get the right kind of, and get your targeting right in terms of who you're aiming at. You're going to get the right people looking at it as well, and whole bunch more than would actually look at your LinkedIn profile too. So yeah.
And secondly, is that what you said about the white paper or report or something.
Mm,
You can actually outsource this stuff. If you
not
if you
yet.
think that, oh, but Nation, I can't write, I'm not. That's great. Just gather the bullet points. Just put the big ideas, and advertise your requirement to Upwork or Airtasker or anywhere else. I think there'll be people who can really help you articulate, write those thoughts, and
Mm,
create a really friendly design for you
mm,
to say, wow, this is great. And then, because that's a hook point, and that's what I think. If you look at what our another amazing guest Amir did, he presented a project report to his
mm,
internship interview that absolutely floored the interview and say, hang on, this is what you have done even before you started to
mm,
work with us. That's pretty remarkable. And I
mm,
think this idea of white paper or report, case studies, right?
mm,
That always brings eyeballs. People are always interested in practical ways to solve a problem. What did you do over there, right?
mm,
And give your knowledge away. Don't worry about it. You don't have to withhold that knowledge
mm,
as well. But the idea of Facebook ads, I felt that was pretty smart, because I now remember I asked one of my clients probably 6 7 years back when LinkedIn was starting to pick up. I said, you know what, you should go ahead and put an ad on LinkedIn as well. do that, try it out. I'm not saying that I've never done that, but he did try that out. It
Mm.
did not give him a lot of things, because LinkedIn ads were be careful. But I really liked that idea on Facebook, that you can actually target a lot of things, but
Mm.
also have a relevant content written as well.
Mm.
Maybe.
Well, it's a bit better than, sorry, LinkedIn, but the green open to work. I mean, I look at that and go, that's great, but open to what kind of work? Which obviously should be on your LinkedIn profile. And yes, it is making it easier, but ultimately people want to hire problem solvers. So people that have identified a gap that in your business that they can actually solve. I've got a couple of, and I'm just going to bring it up on my phone here, about cold approaches and how people have structured those letters. So because I know that actually what to say to people, like how the hell do you, we all say, yeah, be creative and solve problems or whatever, but it's like, how do I start to write that, So I've got a couple, one here that with one of my clients, and again, it's an example of a creative approach. He was working in supply chain and logistics as a manager, but he really loved wine, and he wanted to change his sector experience, do a similar sort of job, but change his sector experience. So we looked at the major wine companies or global wine companies, and thought about the types of people that would manage their local operations, and figured that basically that they might open a letter rather than an email, because people don't get so many letters anymore, but letters kind of, they seem a bit important. So we sent a letter for him to the CEO, knowing that the CEO wasn't his target, but if the CEO tells you to tell somebody that is working for them to do something, generally they go and do it. So the opening line of this letter was basically, and also with this guy, he'd actually been interviewed before by the company. And I know a lot of people go, well, could I reapproach somebody that's interviewed me before? And what do I say without sounding like you're begging for a job? So basically what we put was, as our opening paragraph was, 6 years ago, your organisation interviewed me for the role of general manager in supply chain. Out of 150 candidates, I came a very close second and just missed out to somebody who has wine experience. Naturally, I was disappointed, but since then I've followed your company with interest. And you've actually kept the door open and been discussing contract opportunities with me. And then the reason for my letter is, having achieved the milestones in my current job, I'd like to explore the possibility of me being employed at your company. So basically, yes, we're reinforcing an old connection. We're actually turning that into, it was a close second. And the fact, it doesn't matter that I've missed out, I'm still keeping a very close eye on what you're doing. So, that I can respond to feedback. I've got resilience. I'm actually really interested in your company. And then we went into, identifying some of the issues or problems or challenges of that company in 3 ways that he could actually serve that company. So he got a meeting from that particular letter. So don't neglect letters. For the right people, often a letter will end up on that desk, whereas a resume through an ATS system will not even be populated as part of a database. So I know, if I'm sitting here and somebody sends me a letter, I open it because we don't get them anymore. I only get bills, basically. So, just think about, again, you could actually just, I suppose with wine company, this was a very traditional wine company as well. So, they respected the fact that they'd gotten a letter basically from someone. So never neglect the letter is the moral of that story.
Okay, that's a fantastic one. I completely agree with you, KB, on the idea of receiving letters. I think the old is becoming new right now.
Yeah.
I would still, if you receive a personalized letter from somebody, specifically at a higher position, who sends this letter, and it comes in a great envelope, and it's, it really targeted, it really is warm and personalized. I'm pretty sure people will take notice, and that's the point. And
We
second is that you
have,
want,
oh, sorry, I
you
was going to
also
say,
want,
You go. Sorry, I was just going to jump in.
KB, you want it, as KB rightly pointed out, that you want only one person to
Yeah.
trust you. You want only one person to say, you know what, I want to give a chance to KB because
Mm.
this is what she has done. It's pretty relevant to to our business pain points, and I think I'll give her a chance. So yes, KB.
Yeah, I was just going to say. I mean, we have no, it doesn't work every single time, and with this kind of approach, you've got to expect knockbacks. But if you can just start the relationship with somebody, not necessarily that they've got a job, and a lot of CEOs and senior people say. I think we had a guest the other night who was saying people are open to receiving applications, but not everybody gets back to you. I think we had about a 1 in 4 strike rate with that, so I was pretty pleased with that. And people that we thought would say yes didn't respond, but that's the way it goes. And I think a 25% success rate is not too bad with these sorts of things. The danger about this approach, though, is that you get too attached to the outcome. So you go, I've sent this letter and this person's they absolutely have to respond, and then there's crickets, and that stops you from, keeping on trying. So you've got to know the numbers that are attached around it as well, because then you go, yeah, well, I've got a 40% success rate, so I'm actually doing pretty well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think what's also important, one of the things that can work also along with that is a phone call, because now you've got a reason to call them. Right? I remember one of the idea that was floated around the global financial crisis, and I read a book called Guerrilla Marketing for Job Seekers, 2008 and 9. It was fantastic, and he talked about the idea of coffee cup, and there you send a coffee cup with your resume inside it, right? But the most important thing is that you track the coffee mug is being delivered or not. But as soon as it gets delivered and you get notified that Naishad has received the coffee cup, you immediately next half an hour you call them and say, hey, I'm the person who sent you that coffee cup, which I wanted to catch up for a coffee, right? Because that's what is more important. Because just by sending it sometimes does not give you the result. But then sending it and following up with a call, because now you got a reason to follow up. There you got some common things to talk about, and then you see and say, "Hey, is that you that you sent me? Yeah, that's right. That's me that I've sent you. So tell me what you think about it, because I'm really interested in this opportunity. I really want to work for you. So I wanted to find out how do we take this conversation forward. That will give you that kind of confidence that you can reach out to people. And we have also seen. I'll give you one more example in I think it was in Melbourne or probably Perth. I think probably Perth somewhere. There was a young graduate, and what he did was he printed off his resume on a giant paper, right? And he would carry that. And I think he stood probably at Flinders Street or the other one. I don't exactly remember, but he stood there. And as people walked by, they continued saying, "Oh, what do you do? What do you do?" And then what happens is normally people click through this and send out on social media, "Look at this guy, he's looking for a job, do something." And people just naturally gravitated towards the story, right? And eventually he landed a job out of that, right? Now it's a humongous amount of courage that you need to stand. First of all, you're standing there being, because the first thing is that you'll be ridiculed, right? Right? And then you're standing there with a suit and a tie and with that resume, right? You got to have the real courage required, because I remember following up with him because I wanted to get him on my podcast, but we could not find the time, and I don't even remember his name now. But that's a fantastic story. Just happened. I think he was in Melbourne or Perth, anywhere else. But that's a fantastic story of a graduate, how he grabbed the attention in a right way and really got the job that he was looking for.
Yeah. I was just going to go back and tell a little tale about follow-up and creative, like your coffee cup tale. And this is an example of follow-up that we did, but you could apply it totally to looking for a job. We had an HR manager for one of the investment companies that we were trying to target for outplacement services. And we'd had one meeting with her and it went really well. But in that meeting, we discovered that she really liked wine. And after several phone calls and several emails, we couldn't get a second meeting with her. So we went to the bottle shop and we bought the cheapest, nastiest bottle of, cask wine, wrapped it up and had it delivered to her and attached a note and said, now, we know you really like wine. If you want a better bottle than this, you have to come and have lunch with us. And of course, she said yes to that. But sometimes you just got to think about, okay, how am I going to get somebody's attention? But also know that she actually was just an extraordinarily busy person and it wasn't a priority for her. But, lunch, a bottle of wine, your favourite bottle of wine for a wine lover, who could say no to that? So, and two charming people. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think, Bali said great thoughts on trying something. I fully agree with that. On trying something new, you don't have nothing to do. I can end with one example of, and since Balin comment, I remember a resume that I saw of an accountant, and the resume was in a form of a profit and loss thing, right? And it was very profit and loss and credit and debit. There's some 4 things that it was there. And it was spectacular. It was to the point that if you hire me, what are you going to gain? What are you going to lose? What's the profit? It is just in the context of career. And that was sent to somebody, account manager, finance manager. Look at that. That's pretty creative, right? That immediately grabs people's attention. Right? So that's another thing that I would say. I think we have seen, somewhere that the person sent donuts with his resume also, right? To this recruitment agency or the talent acquisition team to grab their attention. That's remember my view is that it has to be relevant. You have to back it up. Then you don't. If you take any idea, then you don't fumble on the phone and say, "Oh, this was Naishad's and KB's idea. Just implement it. Talk to them." That's not going to work, right? Do your research. If it means that you follow the company, if it means that you follow the person that you want to work with on Facebook, on Instagram, or on LinkedIn, and find a hook point, find something that relates to them without sounding a stalker, but it just make sure that it really connects with them. And I said there's nothing to lose over there. Obviously, you'll invest your time, energy, and money to produce certain kind of resume or application, but I think that's worthwhile. So what are your parting thoughts, Katie?
Yeah, I'll just give one tiny little anecdote, which was totally free, which was from myself. I was doing some volunteer work, helping asylum seekers find jobs, and as part of that, I went to this warehouse, this eco warehouse, and got talking to the warehouse manager there. And it was when I first had I'd left the corporate world and I was just looking for contract and consulting things. So I sort of looked around and saw it was in a bit of a mess. It was a growing business. And I went back to my desk and it was a few days later and I sent her an email. And in the email headline, I put, "Why not pester Esther?" as my email. And of course she opened that and it was like, "Hi Esther, it was wonderful to meet you the other day. I was in your warehouse and I'm just wondering whether you could use the services of an HR manager to help you put some policies and procedures in place," something along those lines. And I got a contract out of it. And I think I just cheekily used the words, I was wondering if you could use the services of a talented individual like myself, because we had built that kind of rapport. So don't be afraid to just, keep it lighthearted and have some fun and keep it, don't sell the whole, your entire resume or everything that you can do, but just really think about, well, what's going on in that business and what set of my skills could I apply to help them versus, giving her a long history of, what I could actually do. And she wouldn't have even read my resume basically. So yeah, just a final little idea as a parting thing to go off with from today. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So that's pretty much it for today. So, hope this will inspire some creativity,
Mm,
in your approach. If you want to brainstorm idea, if you come up with an idea and say, Nation or KB, this is what I've thought about, give a shout out to us. We'll be more than happy to help
mm,
you out because you'll also learn in that process as
mm,
well. It's
mm.
equally learning process for us as well. So feel free to reach out to us. Now, for tomorrow we are going to talk to Prakash Menon. And if you've not heard about Prakash Menon, then go and Google the name. He's also fondly called as PK. And he is in Melbourne, originally comes from India. He used to be on the board of Myers, and it absolutely sensational story of a migrant that literally came with few $100s and made a huge career, working with Meyer for a few years and transforming, supply chain and logistics operations for Meyer and saved millions and millions of dollars. And he's written around 40 books on various aspects. And his first book is called Driven, and it's a fantastic story. But tomorrow we are talking to PK about thought leadership. It's an area that he has invested a lot of time and energy in, and we want to pick up his brain around that. That whether thought leadership is just a buzzword or does it mean anything, and how you can be a thought leader. So it's going to be a fascinating, interesting discussion tomorrow. But tomorrow it would be at 4 p.m., not at 3 p.m. So make sure that you log in and join us at 4 p.m., not at 3 p.m. Until then, look after yourself and your loved ones. And yes, tomorrow we will go to shopping because retail is open. So make
And also, don't forget to follow the hashtag Career Care Package on LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification if you're watching this on YouTube as well. And I do want to remind people that on Thursday, I sent round an email to my database of about 7,000 people or so. And I've had so many people come back to me and go, I'm really looking forward to this one, which is the story of Simon, who went from being addicted to ice, being in prison, to rebuilding his career to now be an operations manager. And it's such an inspirational story. I always think when you listen to things like that, if you can turn your life around from that kind of those sorts of circumstances, you can do anything. So, don't forget to tune in on Thursday as well.
absolutely. Thanks for that reminder, KB. Yes, we will see you tomorrow, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.